Jake Paul is a clown and Brian is a baby clown. That's what they do. They try to get fame off of other people's victories and things like that. So
and create an amazing sports story. And so I set that goal for myself, and I want to be impeccable with my word and stay committed and prove to myself that I can do this.
Jake Paul fight next. He just called out Tank.
Yeah, I think he deserves a fight. He can fight Julio Ramirez, or he can fight the Mexican monster, David Benavidez.
So who's Jake Paul targeting next? Well, he just called out Tank Davis. And honestly, many think he's earned a big fight. Some say he should go after Zurdo Ramirez, or even the Mexican monster David Benavidez.
When you retire, do you see yourself going the Jake Paul route?
I laugh because I don't want to say it, but
Say it, nigga, say it. You helping everybody else out, so say it, nigga.
yeah, I would. I would.
Who would the first celebrity you fight? Jake.
Yeah, I fight him for that money. Get him like 190, 98, 200. No, 195, 200. He definitely be in the gym, so I would consider him a boxer. He got to fight a actual fighter now, like a fighter.
Who was somebody you could see him fighting, like
Me.
a real you?
Right after taking out Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Jake Paul wasted no time. He went straight for Gervonta Tank Davis, saying he's ready to face the best and become world champion. Jake didn't hold back, he wants all the smoke. Tank Davis heard the call out loud and clear. He acknowledged Jake's ambition, but let's be real, plenty of fans are questioning if Jake's even close to that level yet.
A lot more than that. I want tougher fighters. I want to be world champion. Zurdo looks slow as shit tonight. That'd be easy work too. Badu Jack. I want everybody. Anthony Joshua, Gervonta, and Tommy, stop running.
Ivan Jose Benavidez Acera, a respected trainer and father of David Benavidez, gave Jake Paul some major credit. He said Jake looked impressive and now deserves real challenges, like Tank or even David himself. In his view, this is great for the sport. It's not just hype anymore. Jake's bringing a blend of entertainment and legitimate competition to boxing.
He was blocking and taking all his shots, but I think he just got tired, and couldn't execute it. So Jake Paul did a great job.
Who should Jake Paul fight next? He just called out Tank.
Yeah, I think he deserves a fight. He can fight Julio Ramirez, or he can fight the Mexican monster, David Benavidez.
You won that fight.
Yeah, he deserves to fight all these guys. I think it will be a great fight, and I think he did good. He deserves an opportunity to fight for the world title.
And what would happen if he fought David?
What was that?
What would happen if he fought David?
Well, I think David's in another. I think David's in another level, but let's give this guy an opportunity to fight for a world title.
Jake's victory over Chavez Jr. didn't just boost his fame, it changed his official boxing status. According to Boxing Kingdom, if Jake wins tonight, 2 top sanctioning bodies will rank him in the top 15 at cruiserweight. That's huge. It means champions can fight Jake as a voluntary title defense. With his ability to draw massive crowds, Jake now gets to choose which champ he fights and when. This isn't just about fights anymore. Jake is becoming a major force in boxing's business and title scene. And while Tank Davis is one of boxing's most dangerous pound-for-pound stars, Jake Paul might be winning in another arena. His reach outside boxing is undeniable. With social media, promotions, and a loyal fan base, Jake has created a brand that's bigger than the sport itself. More and more fans are saying it. Tank may be the monster in the ring, but Jake is becoming the bigger name man that's starting to matter more than ever.
What up, fight fans? Now, Gervonta Davis just called out Jake Paul after Jake Paul had his fight with Mike Tyson. Now, we all know that Gervonta Davis is a beast of a boxer, and skill-wise, he's a lot better than Jake Paul. Would it be smart to pair those two up in a fight? Would Jake Paul be too big for Gervonta Davis? What do you guys think?
Jake Paul isn't just chasing fights, he's chasing legacy. For him, this journey is about building something unforgettable in sports history. In his own words, he's focused on crafting an epic story and staying locked in with discipline. From being a controversial YouTuber to becoming a ranked pro boxer, Jake has flipped out into drive and he's not slowing down.
In a ceremony that I was doing, he said that you have to become world champion to inspire so many kids and create an amazing sports story. And so I set that goal for myself, and I want to be impeccable with my word and stay committed and prove to myself that I can do this and become world champion in the world's hardest sport in roughly 6 to 7 years. Because I think it can be one of the most relatable and inspiring sports stories of all time, and no one thought it was possible. Nobody. Look, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, people laughed at me. I'm gonna lose to fucking Gibb, then Nate Robinson, then Ben. Come on. So at the end of the day, that's my why, and I'm dead set on becoming world.
Jake Paul's manager gave fans a behind-the-scenes look at how far he's really come. Back when he faced Tommy Fury, Jake was still Robert. He didn't run from the challenge. He stood toe-to-toe and learned. Now, he's winning, evolving, and plans are already in motion. According to his manager, Jake could be back in the ring by November or December, and yes, Gervonta Davis is one of the names being seriously considered.
Did Jake Paul take more from this fight and the boxer? I mean, three fight or this fight? What do you reckon he learned more from?
I think he said it best in there himself. When he fought Tommy Fury, he wasn't even a boxer yet. He was learning how to box, right? Now, 2.5 years later, he's a true boxer. The loss to Tommy Fury is the greatest gift in Jake Paul's life. Had he beaten Tommy Fury, which was a split decision loss, right? Not a unanimous, not a majority, a split decision loss, he wouldn't be the fighter that he is today. Thank you, Tommy.
Do you think it's make Jake Paul fight in November, December time? Is that we'll see about that?
Yeah, November or December is the time when they'd like to do it.
Jake's recent fight with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. got people talking, including Ryan Garcia. Garcia tweeted, "Jake did his thing, outboxed Chavez Jr., and coming from one of boxing's rising stars, that's a big deal. It shows that even elite fighters are giving Jake respect." Boxing legend Antonio Tarver also weighed in. He said Jake clearly improved, but warned fans not to rush him into the deep end just yet. There's progress, but he's not at the top-tier level yet.
But Jake was impressive. You know, surprisingly, he was impressive. He was moving. You know, he got a good team with him and working on some things. But, you know, to become an elite fighter, it's like, bro, it's miles away from where, you know, they can comprehend. You feel me? And so I'm just watching the evolution. Right. You know what I mean? But I see a lot of things from my optics. Mm-hmm. You know, every time I, you know, break it down, I'm not being critical. I'm just telling you the truth. You know what I mean? His jab looked good today, you know, but he knew the guy wasn't throwing nothing back. So when you let your hands go and you know nothing's coming back, you kind of get comfortable. You know, so when you're going up against better fighters, they not only gonna let their hands go, but when you throw yours, they coming back with something. So, you know, Chavez didn't bring that to the game. He didn't bring that to the table. But Jake looked good tonight. The body work was good. But what I liked was his composure. He didn't get wild. He didn't get out of control, swinging wild and just fighting. He stayed composed. He stayed in his form. And that is evolution in the boxing game. He was more technical than.
Still, a big part of the boxing world isn't buying into the Jake versus Tank hype. Critics say the matchup just doesn't make sense competitively. Tank Davis is in his absolute prime, with serious contenders lined up in his own division. Meanwhile, Jake, despite stacking up wins, isn't seen as ready for that caliber of opponent. The gap, many argue, is just too wide right now.
That Jake Paul might actually fight Gervonta Tank Davis. This can't be real. When it came up a couple of months ago, I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to cover this because there's no way it's real. There's no way they're really going to do that because it makes no sense. Why would you do that for him? Outside of it, like, okay, you can look at it like an exhibition, which it will be, and we'll take a look at some of the rule set for it. But Gervonta Davis is one of, if not the best, biggest names at 135 pounds and is an active in his prime fighter. I don't want to hear the similar to Floyd and Logan thing because at that point, Floyd was retired. Floyd had done all he needed to do in the sport. Tank is still in his prime, still has multiple high-level opponents that he needs to fight. And you can say, oh, you know, the Jake would be a one-off. Side quest. That's fine, but that just tells me that Tank doesn't care about being a high-level champion in the sport anymore. It tells me that he's done competitively in the sport. If he takes a fight with Jake Paul, it tells me he's done. And that's unfortunate. Yeah, Tank has been talking about retirement, but if he goes this route, it's almost certain. Like it's pack it up. It's over with. Because the fight makes no sense. It doesn't even make sense for Jake. For all the things Jake's talking about doing, it makes no sense for him. Again, money, sure. If it makes dollars make sense, okay, fine. But I want to see Jake in competitive matchups where I am interested in the outcome. I'm not interested in this. I'm not interested in the outcome of this. I was interested in Floyd versus Logan because there was an idea that Floyd was a little slower, a little older, and Logan would be able to knock him out. If Jake knocks Tank out, so what? What does that do for him? Because he said he could beat Canelo. He said he could beat Anthony Joshua. This one to me, like I've gotten on board with a lot of Jake fights because they've made sense. right? To me, they've made sense. Even Julio Cesar Chavez, after he's already beaten the guy that beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., he beat Anderson.
But on the flip side, some fans actually believe Jake Paul could have the upper hand if he fights Tank. Why? Because of the physical difference. Tank Davis usually fights in much lighter divisions, and stepping up to face someone with Jake's size and reach, that's a serious risk. Sure, Tank's got power, skill, and elite ring IQ, but when size becomes a factor, the playing field changes.
I would love to see Tank fight Jake Paul. I would love to see Tank show how unskilled he is and too small for the unexperienced Jake Paul, who will be too big for him, pause, and use his size and beat the out of Tank. He always tweet about, type about, got something to say. Like he really running shit, but he stays little ass at that lightweight class, but being a bigger, smaller dude that can only beat the smaller dudes. And unfortunately, I would love to see the Tank fans looks on their face as they pull a mask off and all the rabies and all the disinfection disease, they've been clogged up their brains and their ears and shit over the years watching Jake Paul beat the fuck out of the small version of the wannabe hype job that's not skilled enough to use his size and speed. I want the fight. They both fight in the same lane. They content creators. They circus acts and stuff. So Tank would be right up his alley fighting a Jake Paul. I'm for it. So let's push for the fight. I got Jake Paul beating the tall shit out of Tank because Tank's not skilled enough to actually beat Jake.
Jake Paul has said it over and over. He's not just here to throw punches. He wants to be a symbol, a source of belief. Fighting Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. wasn't just about a flashy name. It was calculated. Jake is trying to show young people that even if you start from zero, you can rise in one of the toughest sports. He's chasing titles, yes, but he's also chasing a legacy built on inspiration.
He's a former world champion. He is the most experienced fighter I've fought to date. And it's going to be a really good test of my skills. And depending on the performance that I put on, the sanctioning bodies in boxing will give me a ranking. And once I have that ranking, I'm able to go and fight for a world title. So this can set me up to become world champion and to be able to attain and get a world championship fight down. Yeah, I think a lot about inspiring the next generation. That's a big part of the reason I'm still so adamant about becoming a world champion, because it will prove to kids that they can go into something at zero and make it all the way to the top in 6 to 7 years time if they fully set their mind to it.
Even with Jake Paul's dominant win, not everyone was convinced. Some fans called the fight suspicious. Online, tweets accused Chavez Jr. of barely throwing punches for 8 rounds, then suddenly looking sharp in the last 2. One user wrote, "No way a real boxer sat there like that. This was rigged." Despite the controversy, Jake's impact goes way beyond the ring. He's changed how boxing is promoted, bringing viral marketing, fresh streaming deals, and spotlighting under fighters. He's not just a fighter, he's redefining the game.
Jake Paul is unequivocally the most successful fighter in history 4 years in. No one comes close. No one. You couldn't list one that comes close, including Brock Lesnar if you include his WWE career. 4 years in terms of what he's done in terms of box office, pay-per-view, impact, helping other boxers, because he had platform, he had awareness, and he's got the focus and discipline to drive.
When reporters asked Jake Paul about Tank Davis's comments, he didn't take the bait. Instead of firing back, he kept it cool and classy. He's a great fighter, and he surprised me a couple of times. Jake said, showing maturity and real respect. It wasn't trash talk, it was a nod to Tank's talent and a sign Jake understands exactly what kind of challenge he's asking for.
Your thoughts on Tank Davis? Man, he's a great fighter. He's a great fighter. He surprised me a couple of times. We've had some word exchanges. Yes. But it's all for fun. I hope this fight with Ryan Garcia happens. Who you leaning on? It's a 50-50 fight, in my opinion. You know, Gervonta hasn't shown the ability to win a lot of rounds against taller fighters. And then he relies on the knockout in the later rounds, which has worked for him. But if Ryan could avoid that, I think it'll be his power and speed will be and range will be a problem for Gervonta. But if Ryan gets caught, we've seen what Luke Campbell did. Yeah. And Gervonta is obviously a way bigger puncher than Luke. So it's really, in my eyes, the fight could go out.
Critics online are starting to question whether Gervonta Davis is truly chasing the toughest challenges at 140 pounds. Some fans are pointing out a pattern. They say Tank avoids higher risk fights. And now, with Jake Paul calling him out, People are wondering if Tank might sidestep this unconventional but dangerous matchup too.
So Jake Paul said him and Tank were in negotiations to actually fight. Jake Paul would have probably knocked Tank out. Like, we gotta be honest here. The fight was gonna be at 195, and which means Jake Paul cannot come over the weight limit of 195. I think he could have made that weight. I don't know where it would have been. I don't know any more stipulations. It said it was gonna be a normal boxing match, and where Jake Paul probably would have beat the shit out of Tank Davis. I'm gonna call cap. I don't think Tank would have actually fought Jake Paul. Tank is scared to fight, somebody at 140. I don't see him fighting somebody 195, 200 plus pounds. That's just ridiculous. That's unrealistic. I don't think Tank is taking that type of risk. Now, I know a lot of you guys like, oh, Jake sucks. Tank is this, Tank is that. When you're that much larger than a man, your boxing ability goes out the window. It just really does not matter how much of a boxer you are. The guy is way larger than you. Like, I don't think Gervonta could do anything to even reach his face. He's 6'1". But you guys let me know, man. Who would y'all have if Jake Paul and Tank Davis fought? Like I said, I'm putting all my money.
Before any real talks of Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis can happen, there's some unfinished business. Tank still owes fans a rematch with Lamont Roach. Most agree that bout needs to come first. Only after settling that score should a crossover mega fight even be considered.
Yeah, you're seeing what I'm saying. Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. I don't buy it for a second, but apparently they were in negotiations to have this fight happen if Tank Davis beats his previous opponent, which obviously ended in a draw. Which means he's obviously going to go and rematch Lamont Roach in his next fight. But come on, Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. Jake Paul is a cruiserweight / heavyweight. Tank Davis is a lightweight. This is Jake Paul's mindset. Okay, I'll fight a legit professional boxer. OAP. I'll fight a legitimate professional boxer who's his age, loses. Okay, I'll fight another professional boxer who's half his weight. Honestly, I don't care how big Jake Paul is, I genuinely do think that Tank Davis would beat Jake Paul. I think Tank Davis would be too fast, too slick, outbox him, move around. He wouldn't knock him out, obviously. I don't think he'd knock him out because of how big Jake Paul is, but he would outbox him 100%. But anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think about this potential fight. I really hope it does not happen because Jake Paul needs to fight a legitimate pro who isn't a taxi driver, who isn't old, and isn't half his weight.
Boxing analysts say if Tank Davis moves up in weight, it could open a whole new chapter for him. It would challenge his ability to adapt and give fans matchups they've never imagined. Facing someone like Jake Paul wouldn't just test his pop, prove he can go beyond limits and compete across divisions.
Tank Davis says that he's bored with boxing. He said if paid enough, he'd make an MMA debut. He said back in the day in the street, he used to throw a few punches, and then he'd go for the takedown and throw him on the back.
It's surprising to many that Gervonta Davis still isn't ranked in the top 10 pound for pound, despite his record and knockout streaks. That stat sparks a big debate. Where does Tank really stand in the global boxing scene? Would fighting Jake Paul boost his profile or water it down? Some call it risky. Others say it's the natural next step in this new crossover era.
Gervonta Davis is not a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter right now. He's arguably not even in the top 10 pound-for-pound right now. Despite how cool this picture is, it does not get him into the pound-for-pound list. Even though we could say that he could probably beat everyone in the lightweight division, even though I think he loses to Shakur, he hasn't done it, and he probably isn't going to do it. But what would it take for him to get to the #1 pound-for-pound spot? Let's go over what he would have to do to reach #1. Well, first off, he'd obviously have to go undisputed in the lightweight division. And even though that would be great, I think that only cracks him like #4. Because the only one in the top 10 pound-for-pound in the lightweight division is maybe Shakur. But realistically, he's gonna have to do more than just go undisputed in the lightweight division. So obviously, he'd have to go up to 140 because there's no way he's making 130. And then he'd have to beat a dude like Teofimo, and he'd probably have to beat Devin Haney as well. And I think that could probably get him the #1 spot. But yeah, we can sit here and say Tank is one of the best pound-for-pound fighters right now, which I think he's one of the most talented, and I think he could do most of what I said. However, hypotheticals aren't going to work with pound-for-pound listing.